Welcome everyone to another edition of Let's Be Frank About Sports. I am your host, Frank Agino, a podcast on the NBA drama going on, more specifically, the Twitter beef between former teammates Kevin Durant and Kendrick Perkins. This one really came out of nowhere, and I'm shocked just how much attention it got, but Thursday night, not too much going on. Big basketball night. Russell Westbrook making his return to Oklahoma City after they just traded him, now a member of the Houston Rockets. And, just Thursday night, we're hanging around, watching the game. And then all of a sudden, Kendrick Perkins pops up on Twitter and he goes, in about 30 minutes, I'm about to give my opinion on SportsCenter on why I believe that Russell Westbrook is the best player to have ever put on an Oklahoma City Thunder jersey. He is Mr. Thunder. Then, replied by Mark D'Amico, who is a writer for the Boston Celtics, he says he put together the best career within that organization, but he's definitely not the best player to have ever put the jersey on for them. Come on, Perk. Kendrick Perkins replied with, hey, Kevin left the door open and Russ walked right in. And the Celtics reporter replied with, I think Russ walked right into the door called second round of the playoffs 3 straight times. Now, I'm not exactly sure what he is referring to because after Kevin Durant left, Russell Westbrook never made the second round of the playoffs. It was actually the first round of the playoffs that he got eliminated from 3 straight years. So I'm not necessarily sure if he was trying to say that he never got to the second round or that he was in the second round because that's not true. Regardless, Perkins replied, KD lost in the second round without Russ when I was there. So what that mean? Then all of a sudden, here comes the man himself, Kevin Durant. He gets involved and it says, yeah, and our starting center, Kendrick Perkins, averaged a whopping 2 and 3 during that series. You played hard though, champ, LOL. And Perk replies with facts on the averages and facts on the champ part 2. Kevin Durant replies with a handshake emoji, followed up by Perkins, boy, stop. You did the weakest move in NBA history, up on a team 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals, and then go join them the following season. Heart of champion right there. And then, you just keep going on, and people are replying to Perk, and they're replying to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant throws in another, weakest starting at center, playing real minutes with no production. Should have worked on your skills as much as I did. And Perkins said, that's fine. You worked that hard and still had to go join a 73-9 team. Truth be told, you don't even feel like a real champ. You have a hard time sleeping at night knowing you took the coward way out. It's just been a lot of craziness going on this week in the NBA, especially with Twitter and more specifically Kevin Durant, because this was not the first argument that Durant had this week on Twitter about, some topic and how it relates to him and, just his mentality and his choice making. Because the thing is that Kevin Durant has made a lot of unpopular choices. When he left Oklahoma City, nobody wanted to see that unless you were a Warriors fan, because it's just like the Thunder had Golden State on the ropes. They were up 3-2. It's game 6. They had it all wrapped up. And then, Klay Thompson gets hot. And the Thunder, they just ended up blowing that series. And then the season right after that, Kevin Durant goes on and joins the Warriors after they had lost to LeBron in the finals. Draymond Green suspension in Game 5. You know how the whole thing went. And it just was like, as Perk said and a lot of other people said, it was a weak move for somebody of Kevin Durant's caliber. You have to be considerate that, Durant had just won the MVP a couple of years ago, and for a while he was Mr. Thunder because he had always been the better of the two players between him and Russell Westbrook. So seeing something like that, the whole NBA world was not a fan of that. It messed up the competitive balance. And for year after year after year, you saw the Warriors in the finals. I mean, the 2 years that he was with Golden State, they both won championships. And the year after that, when Durant was hurt, then the Raptors won the championship. But you just feel like if Durant was healthy and Klay Thompson was healthy, the Warriors were probably going to win another title. So that, again, that really had messed up the way that, basketball was going. And then right after that, there was some speculation that Kevin Durant was going to leave Golden State because they were starting to have arguments. The team wasn't as dominant. You saw Draymond Green call him some profanities and what have you, and about how, we didn't really need you and all this other stuff, which is a lie. But still, Kevin Durant ended up leaving the Warriors, and a lot of people thought that, he should go to the Knicks. I mean, that's one of the things that we were talking about all last year. All Knicks fans wanted to see Kevin Durant, join the team, and they wanted him to bring Kyrie, and they wanted them to draft Zion Williamson. And this was kind of like the dream offseason for Knicks fans, and that ended up not happening as Kevin Durant went to the Brooklyn Nets. And again, it was not a popular decision. It was something that people like the Brooklyn Nets, they're not the Knicks. The Knicks are the Mecca. The Knicks have the history. How could Kevin Durant not go to this team? But he went to Brooklyn, and he said it's because it's what is not cool. And what is cool is winning. And I've talked about it before. I've written about it as well. That's what the Brooklyn Nets did. They tried their best last season. They did not tank while the Knicks did. They were able to win as many games as they can, make a miraculous run, get into the playoffs, and just be a really competitive team. And that caught the eyes of Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and is why they ended up playing on the Brooklyn Nets. And this week, Brandon Tierney, a sports talk radio host, said, Nets win 7 straight, no one cares. Nets lose 7 straight, no one cares. Kevin Durant replied, what does it say? The tweets, they're kind of all over the place now because Twitter is just so annoying with all these different replies and people, and some tweets get deleted, and there's so much going on. But it was a whole big thing of like Brandon Tierney was telling Kevin Durant that the Garden was made for him and that he didn't go. He went to the Nets instead, and it was just like at least Carmelo Anthony took his shot, and Kevin Durant was saying, I kind of do what I wanted. He was saying stuff like, the reality is that you wanted me to do what you wanted me to do. I didn't, and now you feel some sort of weird way about it. Get over yourself, bro. I know you got a low platform, but come out the clouds. It's not real. You know what I mean? So there was just a lot of weird stuff going on with the whole Kevin Durant and the Twitter beef and what have you. But, I mean, the thing with Brandon Tierney, that kind of came out of nowhere as well, because it's just like Brandon Tierney was just talking about something that kind of is true, because it's just like the Nets had lost 7 in a row, and it wasn't really being talked about much. I mean, I did, but, I mean, other than that, we're talking about Joe Judge, we're talking about the upcoming draft. I mean, we're talking about any possible moves that the Yankees or Mets could make. Like, we're not even talking about the Nets, even though it's probably the most important New York story going on right now. I mean, other than Joe Judge getting hired. So it's just very odd that stuff like that happens. And I guess Kevin Durant kind of took that personal, saying that nobody cares about the team that he thought was cool. You know what I mean? Because no matter what, I mean, even though the Nets are a lot better than the Knicks, it just always seems like the Knicks are going to be the more popular team because they were around first, and Brooklyn has only been in New York for a few years because they were in New Jersey for such a long time. So that's always going to be something that's hard to beat. But still, the thing with Perkins, that one, it really shocked me because the backstory is that both of these guys came out the University of Texas. So right there that they have a similar connection. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were a really young team, and they were starting to, try to learn how to win. And in 2009, they'd get to the first round of the playoffs and they lose. So Oklahoma City trades Jeff Green to bring in Kendrick Perkins because they needed someone with playoff experience, with championship experience. That's why Perk said facts on the champ part, because of the championship he won with the 2008 Boston Celtics. But still, it was like the Thunder needed a center because you had Westbrook, you had James Harden, you had Kevin Durant, you had Serge Ibaka, and you even had Thabo Sefolosha, who ended up becoming the starting shooting guard on that Oklahoma City team that went to the finals. But still, they needed a center, so they make the move for Kendrick Perkins. And the thing is that Perkins, he was not a scorer, he was not a rebounder. Kevin said, he averaged 2 and 3 during the series. That was not what Perkins did. What Perkins brought to the team was defense, it was toughness, and the thing is that Perkins only averaged 2 points because he wasn't taking any shots. I mean, Westbrook and Durant were jacking up just about all of them, and then it was Harden, then it was Kevin Martin, then it was Reggie Jackson, it was Ibaka. So everybody was shooting the ball but Kendrick Perkins. I mean, let's be honest here. And that was kind of because he didn't have the greatest offensive skill set, and that is mostly due to the fact that he had a really bad knee injury with the Celtics, and he never was the same player. That is not what Perkins was ever known for, was being, this 20 points a game scorer. That's not what he did. But what he did do was he would set some of the best screens in the NBA, freeing up shots for Kevin Durant, freeing up shots for Westbrook and Harden. And these guys, I mean, they were getting good looks because the screens that Kendrick Perkins was setting. And one of the other things that Perkins did, which is so undervalued and doesn't show up, when you say the guy averaged 2 points and 3 rebounds, is that he was the enforcer for the Oklahoma City Thunder. If anyone ever wants to get really physical with Kevin Durant or push him or anything like that, Perkins would be the first guy to step in there and protect Kevin, protect Russell, all of Oklahoma City's, young players. And then they wouldn't mess with Perk because Perk is a really big dude and, again, a tough guy. You don't want to mess with him. So you're not going to bother Durant, you're not going to bother Westbrook because you're going to have to answer to Kendrick Perkins. And that's what he did. So, here's a guy who he mentored Kevin Durant. He protected Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant wants to bring up his, stat numbers going 2 and 3. And personally, I really don't believe that Kendrick Perkins was trying to take that many shots at Durant. I think it was more so that he was trying to congratulate Russell Westbrook because of how Westbrook was willing to fight and stick with the team when it was so easy to walk out on them. When Durant left them in free agency completely out to dry, Westbrook didn't quit. It just motivated him to play that much harder, which is pretty, difficult to think about considering how hard Westbrook always plays. But still, it's just like he was willing to stick it out, and they made the trade for Paul George. They thought they had another chance at another nice little window like, Durant and Westbrook had Paul George and Westbrook. That ended up not happening because Paul George wanted to play with Kawhi. Again, the NBA, there's a lot of drama, players moving all the time. You never could predict any of that. But still, I just think that, Perk was talking more about Westbrook and about how, the legacy that he holds, because you look at the reception that the two of them got, and it was very telling. When Kevin Durant made his return to Oklahoma City and he was getting booed like crazy, and they were calling him Cupcake, and, the Oklahoma City fans, they were all over them. They're a very passionate fan base. It's called Loud City. Compared to when Russell Westbrook returned, he got the tribute video. He got the big ovation. I just felt that Russell Westbrook's leaving was much more mutual. After Paul George requested the trade, I felt like Westbrook, there's two possibilities that could happen. Number one, Westbrook could have said, all right, you know what? Durant left, and I tried to, I suffered through a year that Westbrook had to work extremely hard to get that team to the playoffs, his MVP year. And then after that, he's like, Paul George comes, so now I have a chance. Now he left. So Westbrook's like, what am I going to do now? I'm now in my 30s. I'm running out of prime years. What are we going to do now? And at that point, Oklahoma City, to continue to build these really good teams, they've lost so many young assets along the way. People forget, but the way Paul George got to Oklahoma City was Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, which were two, really nice young players. How did they get them? From Serge Ibaka. So it's like eventually you only have so many stars and so many young players that you can move. So Oklahoma City could not really make another big trade to get another star to pair with Russell Westbrook. Or Russell Westbrook had signed that really big deal with Oklahoma City that was paying an extremely high salary number. They could have asked him, Russ, would you like to be moved? Because, with the way the team is set up and your contract, we're giving you a little too much money. And, we are Oklahoma and we don't have a championship team anymore. So it doesn't make sense for us to pay the luxury tax, which they have done, year after year while they had these winning teams. So I believe it was much more mutual. And, Westbrook gave everything he had, and he never really disrespected the organization like the way Kevin Durant has done since. So I just think that's why Westbrook got such a better reception. And I feel that could have been another reason why Durant was all mad and what have you, because as he's been rehabbing from this injury, he's just been sitting home on Twitter pretty much, it seems, because whenever his name's brought up, he's like, oh my God, I got to get on Twitter. I got to start tweeting to whoever. That just seems to be the way that Kevin Durant has been acting with all these different interactions. So I think that was very fascinating. And still, it's just like, I couldn't really believe it because these were two guys that were teammates and they appeared to be really close. And I just think that, with the way Durant was talking about Perkins' averages and stuff, that was a little bit unnecessary. And, Perkins definitely fired back with it being a weak move and how Durant can't sleep at night, knowing he took the coward's way out. And still, it was good that the day after when Perkins was on the jump, he apologized to Russell Westbrook because the thing is that, the reception and the ovation and everything, that for Russ was really nice. The game itself was not so nice for his team. Westbrook played well. The Rockets did not, and Oklahoma City played really well and have yet another playoff caliber team again. Will they hold on to those pieces? We don't know. They could trade more star players. Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to stay, but then you could trade a Gallinari or Steven Adams. So they've just become an interesting team where they have so many players, that thing in common where they've all built on that same team. I think that's really fascinating. But still, it's just the way there's so much drama and the beefs going on. And I really think that they probably just, messed up their friendship because of something like that. So, Twitter is definitely a very crazy thing because it could be good, it could be bad. But sometimes, it could cause arguments like this. And it's really sad, honestly. And the thing for me is that once Durant does come back, and he does rehab from this Achilles injury, he needs to play dang well, because you know what? The last podcast I did about the Brooklyn Nets, talking about their 7-game losing streak, where is Kyrie Irving and all this stuff. I mean, Durant, he needs to show up too, because now Durant's... All of a sudden, here's another thing I want to talk about real quick. After I finished that podcast, all of a sudden Kyrie Irving was doing full contact 5-on-5 practice. Where did that come from? Because the last thing I heard was Kyrie was having a tough time lifting up his shoulders. So that injury, I mean, it's been really, really puzzling. And now all of a sudden I saw something that maybe Durant could be back this year, which I really don't think he's going to be. I remember him saying he's not coming back, and I believe he isn't going to be back till next year. I kind of just feel that is the way that he is. So, I mean, next year, him and Kyrie have got to play really, really well and have to get the Nets to be a winning team and go far and honestly almost win it all. Like, they have to at least get to the finals, because then people are going to criticize Durant even more. It's like, oh, well, you joined the 73-9 team, and you're supposed to make the Nets this winning team, and it's going to be New York, so people are going to be all over him. Right now, they're giving him the pass because he's, has a major injury, but soon, it's not going to be a pass anymore. So I'm really curious to see how he's going to react to that type of New York pressure. But the next podcast will be tomorrow after the divisional round of the playoff games are over in the NFL. But until then, have a good one, everybody, and be nice to each other on Twitter.